Tom was a quiet young man who lived in a small town at the edge of the mountains. He had always been different from others. While many of the townspeople were busy with work, money, and gossip, Tom preferred walking through the hills, listening to the wind, and watching the birds fly above. He loved the mountains because they felt honest and calm, and they never judged anyone. His father had passed away when he was small, and his mother worked hard to provide food and shelter. Even with little money, Tom felt happy. He learned that life could be simple, and simple things often brought the most joy. When his grandfather passed away, Tom went to the old house one last time. The house was small, filled with wooden furniture, faded photographs, and the smell of old books. His grandfather had been a quiet man, someone who had lived his life with care and wisdom. He had never been rich, but he had loved the mountains and the stories they carried. In his will, his grandfather left Tom only $2. The townspeople laughed when they heard this. Many said that Tom had wasted his time caring for an old man who had nothing to give. Some whispered that his grandfather had been foolish, and others claimed that Tom would never succeed with only $2 in his pocket. Tom did not argue or get upset. He quietly placed the $2 in his coat pocket. He remembered something his grandfather once said: "Real treasures are not always in gold or silver. Some treasures are hidden in places that few dare to visit." That message stayed in Tom's mind. He decided to take one more hike, a journey to honor his grandfather and the love they shared for the mountains. The townspeople could not understand him. They called him foolish and said he should stay in town, find work, and stop dreaming. Some children mocked him, repeating that he had only $2 and nothing else. But Tom simply smiled. He packed a small bag with bread, water, a warm coat, and a notebook where he sometimes wrote observations of birds and plants. He wore sturdy shoes, adjusted his hat, and set off toward the tallest mountain near the town. The trail was old and winding, passing through dense forests and rocky paths. As Tom walked, he remembered the stories his grandfather had told him, tales of hidden valleys, secret caves, and clouds that seemed to touch the earth. The higher he climbed, the quieter the world became. Birds sang in the trees, leaves whispered in the wind, and the sun painted golden patterns on the rocks. Tom felt alive, as if the mountains were welcoming him. After several hours of walking, Tom reached a small clearing. Here, the forest opened, and he could see the valley below. The town looked tiny, almost like a model. Smoke rose from chimneys, and people moved about like ants. Tom felt calm as he breathed in the fresh air. He took out his notebook and wrote a few lines about the shapes of the clouds and the sounds of the forest. As he continued, he encountered a narrow trail hidden behind thick bushes. It was almost invisible, and many hikers would have missed it entirely. Tom remembered a story his grandfather had once told him about a secret path that led to a place few humans had seen. His heart began to beat faster. He pushed aside the branches and stepped carefully. The ground was soft with moss, and tiny flowers grew along the edges. A cool breeze brushed his face, carrying the scent of pine and earth. The trail led him to a steep cliff, but the edge was safe and wide enough to walk on. From here, Tom could see clouds gathering below him, shaped like waves frozen in the sky. It was breathtaking. He leaned on a stone and watched as the clouds moved slowly, shimmering with sunlight. Something about the sight made him feel that the world was larger than the town, larger than any money, and larger than any judgment from the townspeople. Dodd moved carefully along the cliff and discovered a carved stone stairway leading upward. Each step seemed old but strong. The stairway was hidden from view, tucked between two large rocks, and Tom realized that very few people had ever used it. He felt a sense of wonder and excitement. This must be one of the places his grandfather spoke about, he thought. His hands brushed the stone walls, and he imagined the generations that had passed through here as he climbed higher. The clouds grew thicker, swirling around him. The sunlight made the mist glow in pale shades of white and gold. The trail ended at a wooden gate with strange symbols carved into it. Tom paused. The symbols looked ancient, and he could not read them, yet they felt familiar, as if they were calling him. He pushed the gate open and stepped inside, his heart pounding with curiosity. Tom could hardly believe his eyes. Before him was a village floating above the clouds. The rooftops were made of pale wood and smooth stone. Small gardens surrounded the houses, and colorful flags moved gently in the wind. The village seemed alive but peaceful, untouched by the noise of the outside world. Birds flew among the houses, and a stream ran through the center. Sparkling under the sunlight, he stepped carefully on the paths between the houses. The village was quiet, yet he felt a presence, as if the people were watching him with gentle curiosity. He saw figures moving slowly along the streets. They wore simple clothes, clean and neat. Their faces were kind, and they smiled at him without fear or surprise. One man, tall and calm, approached Tom. His name was Rafi. He greeted Tom warmly and explained that this village was called Cloudhaven. It was a hidden place, protected for generations, and only those chosen by the guardians could find it. Tom listened in awe. He could not believe that such a village existed. He asked Rafi why he was allowed to enter. Rafi looked at him with understanding and said that Tom's grandfather had helped the people of Cloudhaven many years ago. He had built trust with them, and now that trust extended to Tom. Tom felt a wave of emotion. His grandfather had left him more than $2. He had left him a legacy of honor and connection. Raffi guided Tom through the village. Each house was built carefully, and every garden was filled with bright flowers. Small ponds reflected the clouds above. The village seemed to float between reality and dream. Tom noticed the stone walls and rare wood. Everything was crafted with care and skill. The villagers moved with calm purpose, tending gardens, feeding animals, and greeting each other kindly. Tom felt a peace he had never known. They reached a hall at the center of the village. Inside, the walls were covered with paintings. One painting caught Tom's eye immediately. It was of his grandfather as a young man, helping the villagers during a difficult time. Tom's heart raced. He realized that his grandfather had been part of this world, that his life had been more meaningful than he had ever imagined. Raffi explained that Tom's grandfather had kept the village a secret to protect it, and now it was Tom's turn to understand the importance of trust, care, and wisdom. Tom felt both proud and overwhelmed. He had left the town below, mocked and laughed at, carrying only $2, but now he stood in a place of beauty and mystery. He understood that his grandfather had wanted him to find something far greater than money. He had wanted Tom to discover the hidden value of the world, the kind of treasure that could not be counted in coins. As Tom explored further, he felt the wind on his face and heard the gentle trickle of water from the village stream. The villagers moved gracefully, and he realized that this place was a living story, one that had waited for him to continue it. Tom thought of the townspeople mocking him. They had not understood, and that was all right. He had discovered something beyond their imagination. For the first time, Tom felt that his journey was not just about hiking or paying tribute to his grandfather. It was about finding a world that honored kindness, skill, and harmony. He knew that his adventure was only beginning. The $2 in his pocket seemed insignificant now. Yet they had brought him here, teaching him patience and faith. Tom smiled and took a deep breath. The clouds around the village glowed with sunlight. Birds flew freely, and the mountains rose in the distance, silent witnesses to this hidden place. He felt that he had crossed from one world into another, from ordinary life into something extraordinary. Tom understood that this journey would change him forever. He followed Raffi deeper into the village. Each step revealed more beauty, more wonder, and more lessons. Tom knew that the village held secrets and knowledge that had been protected for centuries, and he also knew that he was meant to learn them, to carry forward the trust his grandfather had built, and to live with honor and care. Tom's heart was full of hope. He realized that treasures were not always gold or silver, but trust, wisdom, and the courage to follow the paths less traveled. The mountains, the clouds, and the village seemed to welcome him. And in that moment, Tom felt that he had found his true inheritance, something no one in the town below could ever take away. Tom followed Raffi along the winding paths of Cloudhaven. The village seemed endless, each turn revealing something new and beautiful. Tiny streams ran along the streets, reflecting sunlight like ribbons of glass. Small gardens were filled with colorful flowers, fruit trees, and herbs that smelled sweet and fresh. Birds of every color hopped between the branches. The village felt alive, but calm, like a place outside of time. Raffi stopped near a fountain carved from white stone. Water flowed steadily, and the sound was soft and soothing. "This village has lived in peace for hundreds of years," Raffi said. "We depend on nature, on respect, and on trust. Only those who are careful, honest, and brave can be part of our world." Tom listened, his eyes wide with wonder. He remembered the mocking voices from his town below, people who had laughed at his $2 inheritance. Now, standing in a village floating among clouds, he felt their words lose meaning. The $2 had been a symbol, a reminder of his grandfather's lessons about patience and care. He realized that treasures were not always measured in coins. As they walked, Tom noticed that the buildings were unlike anything he had ever seen. The stones were smooth and strong, yet shaped into gentle curves. The wood was polished and fragrant. Some houses had balconies filled with flowers, while others had little workshops where villagers worked quietly. Children played in the open spaces, running along the paths and laughing. The sound was soft and cheerful, like a melody of life itself. They approached a large building in the center of the village. It had a wide wooden door, reinforced with metal bands. The roof was covered with tiles that shimmered slightly, reflecting the sunlight. "This is the Hall of History," Raffi said. "All knowledge and memories of Cloudhaven are kept here. Only a few are allowed inside at first. Your grandfather helped us record many stories, and now we will show you what he left for you." Tom's heart beat faster. He stepped inside and found a hall larger than any room he had ever entered. The walls were covered with paintings, scrolls, and carvings. Every corner seemed to tell a story. Raffi led him to a section of the hall filled with paintings of people Tom did not know. But then Tom froze. One of the paintings was of his grandfather as a young man. He was smiling, holding a bag of supplies, and helping villagers rebuild a small house. Tom could feel the love and care in his grandfather's eyes. "This was your grandfather," Raffi said softly. "He was one of the guardians of Cloudhaven long ago. He visited often and helped us during times of need. He asked us to keep the village secret, to protect it from outsiders who might destroy our way of life. Now it is your turn to understand and continue his work." Tom could hardly speak. He felt proud, honored, and amazed. He had always loved his grandfather, but now he saw him in a new light. His grandfather had been part of something extraordinary, something that no one in the town below could even imagine. Raffi guided him to a wooden box placed on a platform. The box was old, made of strong wood, with carvings similar to the symbols on the gate. Tom's hands trembled as he lifted the lid. Inside were scrolls, books, and a letter written in his grandfather's handwriting. He opened the letter carefully. It explained that Cloudhaven was built on rare minerals and hidden resources that made the land extremely valuable. But more than wealth, the village valued harmony, trust, and knowledge. His grandfather wrote that he had chosen to protect this place, and now Tom was invited to continue the legacy. The $2 were only a token, a symbol of patience and care. The real inheritance was trust, wisdom, and responsibility. Tom read the letter several times. He could not believe that his grandfather had left him such a secret and important place. His heart was full of emotions, pride, awe, and a little fear. He realized that this village was more than wealth. It was a world built on kindness, courage, and respect. Raffi spoke again. "Your grandfather believed you would find this place when you were ready. He trusted you, and now we must see if you can learn the ways of Cloudhaven. It is not easy, but it is rewarding. You will see things, learn knowledge, and face challenges that few have experienced." Tom nodded. He felt ready. The village felt welcoming, yet he understood that his journey had only begun. He had to learn, explore, and understand the traditions of this secret world. Raffi took him to a small house near the edge of the village. Inside, it was simple but beautiful. There was a desk, a chair, and a shelf filled with books. The windows looked out onto the mountains, clouds, and the paths that led from the valley below. "This will be your place for now," Raffi said. "Study the books, observe the village, and understand what your grandfather taught us. When you are ready, you will meet the council and learn more about your responsibilities." Tom spent the first hours walking around the village. He spoke with the villagers, who shared stories of life in Cloudhaven. They told him about the crops they grew, the animals they cared for, and the ways they solved problems without fighting. Every villager seemed happy, yet humble. They did not have much in material things, but they had trust and harmony, which seemed more valuable than anything else. In the afternoon, Tom climbed a small hill near the village. From there he could see the entire Cloudhaven floating above the clouds. The view was breathtaking. Far below, the valley and his town were visible, but they seemed tiny and distant. He realized how small the problems of the town appeared compared to the hidden world he had discovered. Tom understood that the $2 he had received were only the beginning of a journey that would teach him about patience, trust, and courage. That evening, Raffi invited Tom to a small gathering near the center of the village. The villagers had lit lanterns that glowed softly, reflecting in the mist around them. They sang songs, told stories, and shared simple meals. Tom felt included, yet he noticed the quiet respect in their eyes. They were not mocking him. They were curious, kind, and welcoming. Tom realized that this was what his grandfather had valued most. Life could be simple, yet meaningful. Tom stayed awake late that night, thinking about the day. He wrote in his notebook, describing the village, the people, and the lessons he had learned. He felt a sense of purpose he had never known before. For the first time, he understood that life was more than money, laughter, or gossip. Life was about connection, learning, and leaving the world better than he found it. The next morning, Tom awoke to the sound of birds singing. He stepped outside and saw the sun rising over the mountains. The clouds beneath the village glowed like gold. He felt calm and inspired. Today, he would learn more about the village, its secrets, and his grandfather's legacy. Tom understood that this was just the beginning of a journey that would change his life forever. Raffi met him at the edge of the village and smiled. "Are you ready to see more of Cloudhaven?" he asked. Tom nodded. They walked together toward a small forest at the edge of the village. Inside the forest, hidden paths led to caves, rare plants, and natural springs. Tom learned that the village survived not only on trust but on knowledge of the land, the clouds, and the mountains. Every stone, plant, and stream had a purpose. Tom felt his excitement grow. He realized that this village was a world of learning, and he was a student ready to absorb every lesson. The $2 in his pocket were now a symbol of his grandfather's guidance, reminding him that the smallest things could lead to the greatest discoveries. As they continued through the forest, Raffi showed Tom hidden carvings, symbols, and messages left by the guardians before him. Each had a story, a lesson, or a warning. Tom understood that the village's safety depended on knowledge and care. He felt a responsibility growing inside him, a quiet determination to protect the place that had trusted his grandfather, and now trusted him. The day ended with a breathtaking view of the sunset. The clouds glowed with orange and pink light. Tom felt peaceful and alive. He knew that the journey he had begun with only $2 had led him to something beyond imagination. A secret village in the clouds, a legacy of trust, and the guidance of his grandfather were now part of his life. He felt ready for the challenges and lessons that awaited him in the coming days. Tom finally returned to his small house in Cloudhaven. He wrote down every detail, every sound, and every lesson he had learned. He knew that this village was more than a place. It was a world of knowledge, kindness, and courage, and he was now part of it. They walked past the central fountain and through narrow paths lined with flowering bushes. Every step seemed to reveal new wonders. Small animals peeked from hidden corners, and streams ran along carefully built channels. Tom noticed the attention to detail. Every rock, every plant, every building seemed to have a purpose. He realized that this village had been crafted over generations, with thought, care, and love. Raffi stopped in front of a tall stone gate carved with familiar symbols. "This gate leads to the inner sanctum of the village," he explained. "Only a few have been allowed beyond this point. Your grandfather entered often, and now it is your turn to see what he valued most." Tom's heart beat faster. He stepped forward as Raffi opened the gate. Behind it was a large courtyard, surrounded by buildings that looked older and stronger than the rest of the village. The courtyard was filled with sunlight, and the air smelled of flowers and fresh earth. Several villagers were there, tending to gardens, repairing roofs, and painting wooden beams. They smiled at Tom as he entered, as if they had expected him. "This is the council area," Raffi said. "The elders gather here to discuss the village, its needs, and its future. They will meet you soon." Tom followed Raffi into a round hall at the center of the courtyard. The hall had large windows that looked out across the mountains and clouds. In the middle of the room, a circle of wooden chairs surrounded a raised platform. The elders of the village sat there. Their faces were calm, kind, and wise. Each looked at Tom with quiet curiosity. "Welcome, Tom," one of the elders said. "We have heard of your grandfather's kindness and wisdom. He trusted you to continue the work he began. Today, we will see if you are ready to learn and understand Cloudhaven as he did." Tom felt a mixture of nervousness and pride. He nodded politely and listened as the elders explained the village's history. They told him that Cloudhaven had been founded hundreds of years ago by people who wanted to live in harmony with nature. The village thrived on trust, cooperation, and knowledge. The land beneath and around the village contained rare stones, minerals, and resources. Yet the villagers valued harmony over wealth. "Your grandfather knew that you would come," another elder said. "He taught you patience, curiosity, and courage. Those are the traits needed to protect this village. Wealth without wisdom can destroy what we hold dear." Tom understood. He felt proud of his grandfather and grateful for the lessons he had received. The elders smiled, recognizing the connection between Tom and his grandfather. After the meeting, Raffi led Tom to a building filled with books and scrolls. "These contain the knowledge of the village," Raffi said. "The maps, histories, and instructions for protecting Cloudhaven. Study them carefully. Your grandfather left notes for you so you can learn the secrets he discovered." Tom spent hours reading. The books described the mountains, the hidden paths, and the rare minerals beneath the village. There were instructions on how to maintain the buildings, the gardens, and the water systems. Tom learned about the clouds that surrounded the village, how they protected it from view, and how to use the mountains to stay hidden. Every page revealed a balance between nature and human skill, showing how careful planning could protect beauty and life. In one of the scrolls, Tom found a note from his grandfather. It said, "Tom, the greatest treasure is not in money. It is in trust, care, and the knowledge passed down to those willing to learn. Follow the paths with patience, and you will find what you seek." Tom smiled, feeling a deep connection with his grandfather. After studying, Raffi took Tom to a small garden behind one of the houses. The garden had unusual plants, some with colorful leaves, some with fruit that glowed softly in sunlight. Raffi explained that these plants were rare and valuable, but more than their worth, they represented balance. Each plant had a role in the village's ecosystem. Some purified water, others helped the soil, and a few even produced natural medicine. Tom realized that Cloudhaven was a living system, and every person, plant, and stone contributed to its health. Tom spent the next few days exploring the village. He visited workshops where villagers carved wood, shaped stones, and painted intricate designs. He learned from artisans who had inherited skills passed down for generations. Each person he met treated him with kindness and respect. He noticed how the villagers worked together without arguments, how they solved problems calmly, and how they celebrated small successes. One morning, Tom followed Raffi to a small hill near the village's edge. From there, they could see the surrounding mountains, the valley below, and the clouds that hid Cloudhaven from the outside world. Raffi pointed to a small river that ran through the mountains. "This river is part of our protection," he said. "It supplies water, but it also guides travelers away from the hidden paths. Only those meant to find us can reach this place." Tom felt awe. He realized that his grandfather had known about this village all his life and had trusted him to find it. The $2 he had received seemed even more symbolic now. They were not meant to buy anything but to remind him of patience and care, qualities his grandfather had valued. That evening, the villagers gathered for a simple meal near the central hall. Tom joined them, feeling welcomed and honored. They shared bread, fruits, and a stew made from mountain herbs. Children ran around, playing games and laughing. Tom noticed the calm and happiness in everyone's eyes. He realized that this was the true wealth of Cloudhaven: trust, cooperation, and care for one another. Raffi sat beside Tom. "You are learning quickly," he said. "Your grandfather believed in you. The village values you not for money, but for your heart, your patience, and your courage. These are the qualities that will help you protect Cloudhaven when the time comes." Tom nodded. He felt the weight of responsibility, but also a sense of purpose he had never known. He understood that this journey was about more than exploration. It was about learning to protect something rare and beautiful, just as his grandfather had. The next day, Raffi introduced Tom to a hidden chamber beneath the central hall. The chamber was filled with maps, old documents, and a few tools. Raffi explained that these were records of the land, the minerals, and the rare resources that lay beneath the village. Cloudhaven's value was immense, yet the villagers never used it for greed. They relied on wisdom and care to maintain their hidden world. Tom studied the maps and documents carefully. He learned the boundaries of the land, the locations of hidden caves, and the paths that led to natural springs. He realized that every decision in the village depended on knowledge and careful planning. A mistake could expose the village or harm its balance. Tom felt a mixture of excitement and seriousness. He understood that his role would be important, and that the trust his grandfather had placed in him was not something to take lightly. Over the following days, Tom began to assist villagers with small tasks. He helped in the gardens, carried water from the stream, and learned the basics of building maintenance. He observed how people worked together, how they respected each other's skills, and how they solved problems calmly. Tom felt a growing sense of belonging. Cloudhaven was not just a place. It was a community built on trust and care. One afternoon, Tom climbed a small tower near the edge of the village. From there he could see clouds rolling over the mountains in the distant town below. He realized how far he had come. From a boy with $2 mocked by townspeople to a young man trusted by a secret village in the clouds. He felt pride, gratitude, and a quiet determination. He would honor his grandfather's legacy. He would protect this village and its people that as the sun set. Tom returned to his small house in Cloudhaven. He opened his notebook and wrote down every detail of the day. He described the plants, the people, the sounds of the streams, and the lessons he had learned. Each word reminded him that wealth was not in coins, but in wisdom, care, and connection. Tom looked out the window at the glowing clouds. The village seemed to float in a world apart, peaceful and protected. He felt calm and ready for the journey ahead. The lessons of Cloudhaven were only beginning, and he knew that each day would bring new challenges, new knowledge, and new wonders. He thought of his grandfather and smiled. The $2 had been more than money. They had been a guide, a symbol, and a key to a world of beauty and trust. Tom understood that his adventure was only beginning. He had found a treasure greater than anything imagined, and now it was his responsibility to learn, protect, and continue the legacy of Cloudhaven. The next morning, Tom woke early to the gentle sound of birds singing. The sun rose over the mountains, and the clouds surrounding the village glowed softly. He felt excited and eager to continue learning. Today, Raffi had promised to show him more of the secrets of Cloudhaven, and Tom was ready for new lessons. Raffi led him through the village, past the central fountain and the small gardens. Villagers greeted them warmly, smiling as they carried out their daily work. The atmosphere was calm, yet alive. Every person seemed to know their role, and they worked together with quiet efficiency. Tom felt a deep admiration for the community. He realized that this harmony had taken centuries to develop. They approached a stone path that led to the edge of the village. Below them, the clouds rolled gently over the cliffs, hiding the village from the outside world. Raffi pointed to a cluster of stones and explained, "These stones mark the hidden boundaries of Cloudhaven. Beyond them lies the mountain valley. The paths are safe only for those chosen by the guardians. Your grandfather understood this. He knew the village must remain protected." Tom listened carefully. He felt the weight of responsibility growing inside him. The $2 he had received now seemed like a symbol of trust and guidance. They had led him here, teaching him patience, courage, and wisdom. Raffi stopped near a small wooden bridge over a stream. "The villagers rely on these natural systems," he said. "The water, the rocks, and the forests all play a role in our survival. It is our duty to respect and protect them." Tom followed Raffi across the bridge and entered a section of the village that he had not seen before. This part was older, with buildings made of strong stone and wood, some showing the marks of time. There were workshops where villagers carved tools and created art. Small gardens grew rare plants, some with colorful leaves and unusual fruits. Raffi showed Tom a workshop where elders shaped stones and carved symbols. "These symbols record our history and knowledge," Raffi said. "Each one tells a story, a lesson, or a warning. Your grandfather added many of these symbols. They will help you understand the balance needed to protect Cloudhaven." Tom spent hours studying the symbols and learning their meanings. Each one revealed a secret of the village, from hidden paths in the mountains to the ways to cultivate rare plants. Tom realized that Cloudhaven was more than a village. It was a living system, carefully maintained over generations. Every person, plant, and stone had a purpose. Later, Raffi guided Tom to a large hall at the center of the village. The hall was filled with paintings, scrolls, and maps. Tom recognized some of the maps from the chamber beneath the hall he had visited earlier. These maps detailed the land, the streams, and the hidden caves around Cloudhaven. Raffi explained that this knowledge had been carefully guarded to protect the village from outsiders. Tom's eyes widened as he studied the maps. The land beneath Cloudhaven was rich with rare minerals, and the mountains contained hidden caves that stored water and resources. The village's true value was immense, yet the villagers never used it for greed. They valued knowledge, trust, and cooperation above all else. Tom realized that his grandfather had not just protected the village, he had ensured that its treasures would be used wisely. Raffi then led Tom to a small chamber filled with old documents and letters. Among them was another letter from his grandfather. Tom carefully opened it and began to read. The letter explained the responsibilities of a guardian of Cloudhaven. Tom's grandfather wrote that wealth without wisdom could destroy the village. True guardianship required patience, careful observation, and a commitment to harmony. Tom felt a deep sense of pride and purpose. He understood that his role was not just to explore the village but to protect it, to learn from it, and to ensure that its secrets and treasures remained safe. The $2 he had received were no longer a symbol of poverty but a reminder of the journey that had brought him here over the next few days. Tom began assisting the villagers in their daily work. He helped tend the gardens, repair buildings, and carry water from the streams. He learned how each task was connected to the larger system of the village. Every action, no matter how small, affected the balance of life in Cloudhaven. Tom began to understand the wisdom in his grandfather's teachings. Patience, care, and respect were more valuable than any amount of money. One afternoon, Raffi took Tom to a hidden lookout at the edge of the village. From there, they could see the surrounding mountains, the valley below, and the clouds that hid Cloudhaven from the outside world. Raffi explained that the village's location had been chosen carefully. The mountains and clouds acted as natural barriers, keeping the village safe from those who might seek to exploit its wealth. Tom felt a sense of awe. He realized how carefully his grandfather had planned for the village's protection. Every detail, from the paths to the streams, had been designed to maintain balance and safety. He understood that his role as a guardian would require vigilance, knowledge, and a deep respect for nature. That evening, the villagers gathered for a meeting in the central hall. The elders discussed the needs of the village, upcoming projects, and ways to maintain harmony. Tom listened attentively, taking notes in his notebook. He noticed how the villagers spoke with respect, listened carefully, and worked together to find solutions. The community's strength came not from wealth or power but from cooperation and trust. After the meeting, Raffi spoke to Tom privately. "You are learning quickly," he said. "Your grandfather believed in you. You have the patience, courage, and heart needed to protect Cloudhaven. But remember, guardianship is not easy. You must continue to learn, observe, and act with wisdom." Tom nodded. He felt the weight of responsibility, but also a sense of determination. He understood that this journey was more than discovery. It was about stewardship, trust, and preserving a world built on care and harmony. The following day, Tom visited a hidden garden with Raffi. The garden was filled with rare plants, some with medicinal properties and others that produced food. Raffi explained how each plant contributed to the village's ecosystem. Some purified water, others enriched the soil, and a few provided natural remedies for sickness. Tom realized that the village's true wealth was not in money but in its careful balance with nature. Tom spent hours observing the garden, taking notes, and learning from Raffi. He began to see patterns in how the villagers lived, worked, and protected their home. Every task, every decision, and every act of care had a purpose. Tom understood that being a guardian meant seeing the connections between people, plants, and the environment, and acting to maintain harmony. As the sun began to set, Tom climbed a small hill overlooking Cloudhaven. The clouds glowed orange and pink, and the village floated peacefully above the mist. He thought of his grandfather and the $2 he had received. Those dollars had seemed small, but they had led him to this hidden world, teaching him patience, courage, and trust. Tom felt a sense of calm and determination. He knew that the journey ahead would be challenging, but he was ready to learn, protect, and continue his grandfather's legacy. Cloudhaven was more than a village. It was a living story, a balance of nature, knowledge, and human care. Tom understood that his role as a guardian would require wisdom, patience, and a commitment to harmony. That night, Tom wrote in his notebook. He described the gardens, the workshops, the maps, and the lessons he had learned. He reflected on the trust his grandfather had placed in him and the responsibility he now carried. Tom felt grateful for the guidance, for the village's kindness, and for the opportunity to protect something so extraordinary. As he looked out the window at the glowing clouds, Tom realized that his journey was only beginning. Cloudhaven held many secrets, treasures, and lessons that he had yet to discover. The village's value was immense, not in money, but in wisdom, trust, and care. Tom understood that he had been chosen to continue a legacy, to protect a hidden world, and to learn from it every day. Tom went to sleep with a sense of peace. He knew that tomorrow would bring new discoveries, new challenges, and new lessons. He was ready to explore, learn, and grow. The village in the clouds was now part of his life, and he was determined to honor his grandfather, the villagers, and the delicate balance of Cloudhaven. The morning air in Cloudhaven was crisp and calm. Tom woke early, feeling a mix of excitement and responsibility. Today he planned to return to the town below for a brief visit. He wanted to see the people who had laughed at his $2 inheritance and understand their reactions. More importantly, he wanted to gather supplies and prepare for future journeys to the hidden village. Raffi accompanied him to the edge of the village. The clouds below rolled like waves, hiding the paths and keeping the village secret. Remember, Raffi said, Cloudhaven is not only a place of beauty, it is a trust. Only reveal its value carefully when it is necessary. Your grandfather believed in you, and so do we. Protect the village and act wisely. Tom nodded. He felt the weight of responsibility, but he also felt pride. He had learned the ways of the village, seen its hidden treasures, and understood that its true value lay not in money but in knowledge, trust, and harmony. Carefully, Tom descended the mountain path toward his town. The journey was familiar, yet everything felt different. He noticed the forest, the stones, and the river with new eyes. He realized that the world he had left behind was small, but he had grown beyond it. The $2 in his pocket were no longer a symbol of poverty. They were a reminder of the journey, the lessons, and the trust his grandfather had placed in him. When Tom reached the town, people stared. They had not expected him to return so soon, and he looked confident, calm, and purposeful. Some remembered the mocking words they had said about his inheritance. Children whispered, adults stared, and a few elders approached cautiously. Tom, is that really you? Asked the town mayor. He looked curious, yet doubtful. You went to the mountains with only $2. Did you even find anything? Tom smiled quietly. I found something far more valuable than money, he said. I found a place my grandfather loved, a village hidden in the clouds, full of trust, wisdom, and life. The townspeople laughed at first. Some thought he was joking. Others thought he had imagined the entire story. A village in the clouds. One man said, you must be dreaming. Tom remained calm. He reached into his pocket and carefully pulled out a folded piece of parchment. It was a property document and a letter, both authentic, showing his role as guardian of Cloudhaven. The mayor took the papers and examined them. His eyes widened. This is incredible, he said. This village, its value, and your authority. It cannot be real. Tom nodded. It is real. My grandfather trusted me to find it. The village has rare minerals, hidden treasures, and knowledge. But its true value is not money. It is trust, harmony, and care. That is why it has remained hidden for generations. The townspeople gathered around, murmuring in disbelief. They could not imagine such a place existed, let alone that Tom had found it. Children stared in wonder. Elders whispered among themselves, and some people's eyes filled with admiration. They remembered how they had mocked him, laughed at his $2 inheritance, and called him foolish. Now they realized that Tom had discovered something beyond their imagination. The mayor stepped forward. Tom, your grandfather must have been a wise man, and you have proven courage, patience, and wisdom beyond your years. The town owes you respect. Tom bowed slightly, feeling a mixture of pride and humility. I did not do this for respect or wealth, he said. I did this to honor my grandfather and the trust he placed in me. Cloudhaven is protected because we care for it. Its value is more than money. It is a lesson for everyone who understands patience, courage, and care. A few townspeople were still skeptical. They asked questions about how the village could exist above the clouds, how it remained hidden, and what treasures it held. Tom answered carefully, revealing just enough to show that the village was real and valuable, but not enough to endanger it. He wanted to protect Cloudhaven just as his grandfather had. By the afternoon, news of Tom's discovery had spread throughout the town. People came to see him, to ask questions, and to understand the secret world he had found. Tom explained that Cloudhaven's true value was in its people, its harmony with nature, and its knowledge. He did not boast about the minerals, the rare resources, or the potential wealth. Instead, he emphasized care, trust, and responsibility. The town began to see Tom differently. They realized that he had shown courage, patience, and wisdom. They remembered how they had laughed at his $2 inheritance, and now understood that real wealth was not measured in coins. Tom had found something far greater, a secret village floating in the clouds, a living legacy, and the lessons his grandfather had left behind. After a short stay in the town, Tom returned to Cloudhaven. The villagers welcomed him warmly. Raffi smiled, recognizing that Tom had successfully shared part of the story while keeping the village safe. Tom felt proud. He had protected the secret, honored his grandfather, and shown the outside world that trust, care, and wisdom were more important than money. Back in Cloudhaven, Tom began to take on more responsibilities. He assisted in the gardens, helped maintain the buildings, and worked alongside the elders to learn the hidden knowledge of the mountains, clouds, and streams. He studied the maps, the minerals, and the rare plants. Every day he grew more confident in his role as a guardian. Tom understood that Cloudhaven's wealth was immense, but the village measured life differently. Success was not about money or power. It was about cooperation, respect, and care for the land and the people. He realized that his grandfather had given him a lesson greater than any inheritance. Life's true treasures were in patience, courage, and trust. The villagers, too, began to trust Tom more deeply. They saw that he was kind, careful, and responsible. Children followed him along the paths, learning from his actions. Adults consulted him for advice. Tom felt a sense of belonging and purpose he had never known in the town below. He was no longer a boy mocked for $2. He was a guardian of a secret world, carrying forward a legacy that would endure for generations. One evening, Tom stood on a hill overlooking Cloudhaven. The sun was setting, painting the clouds with orange, pink, and gold. He thought of his grandfather, of the town below, and of the journey that had brought him here. He realized that the $2 he had received were more than money. They had been a key, a guide, and a reminder of the values his grandfather cherished: patience, courage, and trust. Tom knew that he would continue to explore, learn, and protect the village. Cloudhaven was a living story, and he was now part of it. Every stone, every plant, and every person contributed to its harmony. Tom understood that true wealth lay in connection, care, and the courage to follow the paths that few dared to take. As night fell, Tom walked through the village. The lanterns glowed softly, reflecting in the streams and highlighting the beauty of the gardens. Villagers moved quietly, tending to their tasks with care. Tom felt at peace. He had found his inheritance, not in coins, but in purpose, knowledge, and trust. He had discovered a world that few could imagine, and he had been chosen to protect it. Tom sat on a bench near the central fountain, looking at the stars above the mountains. He thought of the townspeople below, many of whom would never understand Cloudhaven. That was fine. The village was safe, protected by the trust of its guardians. Tom had learned that true treasure was not for showing off or sharing recklessly. It was for protecting, learning, and honoring the legacy of those who had come before. In the quiet night, Tom felt a sense of completeness. He had faced doubt, ridicule, and uncertainty, yet he had found a place of wonder, responsibility, and life. Cloudhaven was now his home, and he would honor his grandfather by guarding it with patience, wisdom, and courage. Tom knew that his journey had transformed him. He had gone from a young man with only $2 to a guardian of a secret village worth far more than money. Yet he understood that the real value was not in wealth but in the lessons, trust, and care that had guided him. Tom smiled, feeling proud, humble, and ready for all that the future would bring. As the village slept under the glow of the stars, Tom closed his eyes, grateful for his grandfather, for Cloudhaven, and for the journey that had taught him the true meaning of treasure. He had found more than a village in the clouds. He had found purpose, wisdom, and a life worth living.